Carter. Here. Fitzwater. Gregory. May. McCreary. Mosley.
Okay, since we do not have a quorum, we're going to go into executive session here in just a little bit, but right now we'll just go ahead and begin. I think we're going to begin with Senator Roberts' Clean Water Commission bill. Senator Roberts, please come forward and begin when you're ready.
I'd like to thank the Chair and members of the committee for affording me the opportunity to present Senate Bill 569 relating to the Clean Water Commission. Water is Missouri's most precious resource, and the Clean Water Commission works to ensure that the health of the Missourians as well as the health of our commerce and agricultural industries. Senate Bill 569 serves Missourians by establishing that the Commission is free of conflicts of interest that might harm public health and the health of the cornerstones of our state's economy. There's some support to discuss the legislation today that will have may be able to answer some of the more historical questions about the importance of this legislation, but if there are any questions, I'd be glad to take them.
Any questions for Senator Roberts? Seeing none, thank you very much. Anybody to testify in support of Senate Bill 569? Please come forward. Make sure you have your paper with you, if you would, and turn that in, and begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Senators. My name is Mary Culler, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Missouri Stream Team Watershed Coalition. We are a statewide nonprofit organization that was formed in 1999. We are made up of individuals and healthy river organizations that work daily to improve water quality of river streams and lakes of our great state. We do this through education efforts and encouraging every person in Missouri to take positive actions to be a steward of their local waterway. During the last 7 years that I have served as director of this organization, I have observed that our state's Clean Water Commission appears to be dominated by a majority of members that represent industry. I will say, I'm here today on behalf of Missourians and all the people that use our water resources. One of the best parts of my job is working with Missouri Stream Teams. Just this last Saturday, we had over 400 individuals in the Kansas City area pulling out 700 tires out of Kansas City waterways, and this coming weekend there'll be hundreds of people in St. Louis cleaning up their community. I've been working in water resources for the last 20 years here in Missouri. I moved to Iowa for a couple years, but then quickly knew I wanted to move back because Missouri has some of the best water resources in the country, and we are definitely an envy to other states. So talking a little bit about the history and what happened and how we got here today, in 2016 there was a House bill, it was House Bill 1713, and that originally started out as a bill where DNR was basically asked to provide information about additional technology to communities related to technology upgrades for lagoon wastewater systems. And then there was a Senate committee substitute. When the bill was perfected, it included this new section which changed where there was a required 4 members on the Clean Water Commission to where there could be no members representing the public on the Clean Water Commission. So we went from 4 representing the public to potentially no members representing the public on that Clean Water Commission. So I have been in this current position for 7 years and observing the meetings of the Clean Water Commission, and that the bill that I was speaking about, House Bill 1713, was passed. It was vetoed by the governor, and in the governor's veto letter, it says that the change would effectively pave the way for regulated interests to seize control of the commission. And so that was a good prediction. That's what I've observed, is that the commission sensed this change. It indicates that there are large interest groups that have more representation than the Missouri public. And so I'm going to include a copy of the governor's veto letter with my testimony today. I will say that I personally had what I consider to be a pretty negative experience providing scientific information to the Missouri Clean Water Commission. In July of 2019, the commission was looking at a change to, it was basically, DNR has an assessment document, an assessment method of how they assess whether streams are impaired or not. And this is at the time was a 111-page document. It's called the listing methodology document. Very scientifically based. There were some changes that were being proposed that were being backed by industry, or at least one individual that represents several industries. The changes proposed were not scientifically found. I stood up in front of the commission, provided my testimony that basically explained the science behind it, that I had a master's degree in this. I have research publications in my name. I've personally done over 100 stream assessments, and my testimony was essentially ignored by the commission, and someone representing industry that was attending the meeting stood up and said that my testimony was not correct, which in fact was that individual saying that my testimony was not correct was just a blatant lie in front of the commission. So since that time, that was in 2019, I think I've watched more of these meetings, and we see that of the 6 members, I think currently, it seems to be mostly dominated by members that have strong ties to agricultural groups in the state. If you look at the DNR webpage that talks about this commission, there's actually a typo on the website, and I think we need to ask the IT staff at DNR to fix that, because it's been wrong for 6 years. But it says that the commission is made up of 4 members of the public, and that's based on the statute that was before 2016. So there's some misinformation on the DNR website. When you look at the commissioners that are listed on the DNR website, it currently says that there is 1 member that represents agriculture, and there are 5 other members listed. There's 1 vacancy at the moment, but of the other members listed, it says that they represent the public. And I don't want to say anything negative about any of the commissioners serving. I know they did not select themselves to serve on the commission, that they're appointed by the governor, confirmed by the Senate is my understanding. And so there's gratitude to these commissioners that have accepted these public service positions. But I've read different news articles about the affiliations of some of these members, these commissioners that supposedly represent the public, according to DNR's website, but they have very strong ties to some of these large, powerful agricultural organizations. And so it seems like, looking at that a prerequisite to representing the public must be that you have to be on the board of one of the large agricultural organizations. And I think we know who those organizations are. They're here, they're very powerful in the Capitol, they donate to campaigns and so forth. So just in closing, I work daily with people that take positive steps to improve our water quality in the state. Missouri has some of the best water in the nation. We don't want to be like Iowa. We don't want to be like Kansas. We don't want to be like Nebraska. We don't want to be like Illinois. I don't know any other states that are superior to Missouri with water. So it's an important thing. As a mom, I would like to be able to take my kids to the creek. I would like all the moms in Missouri to take their kids to the creek without being concerned that they're going to get sick. And if you grew up in Missouri, you probably played in a creek. So that's the type of Missouri that we want, where kids can get outside, enjoy the rivers and streams, and not have to be stuck looking at their screens or watching on YouTube what it's like to go play in a river. And in closing, I will just say, I think the Missouri public is sick of politics and sick of issues being divided along party lines. And so we know Governor Nixon vetoed House Bill 1713 in 2016, and then his veto was overridden by the state legislature at that time. Right now in the Senate, there's a really positive bill that has traction, Senate Bill 82, related to water exports, or limiting water exports, or providing that permit system for water exports. And if that has enough traction to get across the finish line, this bill would be great to, tack on to that. And what a win that would be for Missouri's water, and a great story for the Kehoe administration. And I can tell you that most of your constituents and most of the Missouri public, they want clean water, both in abundance and water quality. So, thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. Anybody else to testify in support? Please begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Melissa Vatterott. I am the Policy and Strategy Director at Missouri Coalition for the Environment. I am here in support of Senate Bill 569, and just want to stress that we had a public majority on this commission for 44 years. It worked. It had a balanced consideration of what the communities want. They want clean water, they want abundant water, and the industries that are in our state. Since the makeup of the Clean Water Commission changed, we have seen several examples. One was just mentioned, but there have been examples with the Clean Water Commission in its current form that shows that they are not considering all of the perspectives and needs of our state, and the commission is making decisions that is harming our water. An example that we had at Missouri Coalition for the Environment is that we petitioned DNR to issue rules related to algal blooms, the green slimy stuff that you can see on lakes when there's been too many nutrients. DNR had an abundance of stakeholder meetings, and industry and environmentalists and concerned citizens all believed that this was a good idea. DNR could not issue this type of ruling because of their triennial review in that given year, so they had to ask the Clean Water Commission for permission. Does that make sense? Like, they were kind of out of the cycle of reassessing that part of their rules, and so they had to ask for permission to be able to work on it, and the Clean Water Commission said no. What? I don't understand that. So I just want to give that as an example that we need to bring the Clean Water Commission back to a state where we have members of the public helping balance out all of these considerations. And with that, I ask you to support Senate Bill 569.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. Anybody else to testify in support? Please come forward.
Good morning, members of the committee, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, Senator Roberts, thank you for this bill. My name is Dana Ripper. I'm from Saline County, Missouri, and I wanted to share with you all that today is actually my birthday. And I'm really happy to be here, to be able to take time, to be able to have this chance to come down and talk to you in support of this bill. I'm here today representing an organization called the Missouri River Bird Observatory. We're a nonprofit organization based in Arrow Rock, Missouri, eastern Saline County. We have about 3,000 supporters and subscribers throughout the state, and our mission is conservation via science, education, and advocacy. And sometimes we get questions like, what is a bird observatory doing down in Jeff City, talking about things like the Clean Water Commission? But I feel certain that the senators on this committee can kind of connect the dots between healthy habitats for wildlife and healthy water and natural resources for human Missourians as well. We're at a time when there's more and more research and water monitoring coming out throughout the country and in Missouri that's indicating that our drinking water quality is not always the best. So whether that's elevated nitrate loads or bacterial loads, urban runoff, microplastics, and PFAS, which I'm sure everyone on this committee has heard about. There's a lot of awareness being raised recently. There's growing evidence that just the stuff that we're allowing to run into our waterways is not good for us and it's not healthy. So we're looking at substances that are linked to cancer and endocrine disruption. Endocrine disruption is a whole scary topic that we could talk about for a very long time, but it leads to things like developmental disabilities and reproductive issues, amongst other things. And as far as cancer goes, I don't know if members of this committee are aware, but our state to the north of us, Iowa, has the fastest growing rate of cancer in the country. And medical research is showing that this is not correlated with lifestyle choices, such as diet or substance abuse. There's a lot of evidence indicating that it may well be explainable by degraded water quality. So I don't think, no offense to any native Iowans, that Missouri wants to follow that same path. One of the things that my organization does is to encourage outdoor recreation of all kinds, and this includes hunting and fishing. And in the case of, when we're encouraging folks, kids especially, to get out and fish, unfortunately, we have to remember that there are an awful lot of advisories from the Department of Health and Senior Services about contaminant loads in our fish. So I have their charts based on the most recent research. I'll submit that with the written testimony. But DHSS has pretty strict advisories for pregnant women, women of childbearing age, nursing mothers, and children under 13. DHSS says no one of these demographics should eat more than one fish per month from any Missouri water body. So we're already in a situation where our water quality is probably not the greatest. And I would like to not see it get any further degraded, and a great way to do that is to have a strong Clean Water Commission. So for many reasons, I support this Senate bill. I agree with all of the things that my colleagues Mary and Melissa just said. And to finish up, I would like to give an example of why I think we need stronger, not weaker, and more conservative, not more permissive, environmental and human health regulatory structure here in the state of Missouri. I think we're all aware of things going on with our federal agencies right now. Last week, the USDA released a memo about forbidden words that can no longer be contained in contracts and grant proposals with the Agricultural Research Service. So this is the USDA's in-house research branch that conducts research and development of solutions to agricultural problems, focusing on things like nutrition, food safety, animal production, natural resources, and crop production. And on this forbidden list of words, there were our usual cultural trigger words that we've all heard about in the news, but also, according to the memo, it censors in ARS documents phrases such as safe drinking water, water pollution, soil pollution, groundwater runoff, microplastics, rural water, clean water, and water treatment. So this is just the latest example, I think, of what's going on at the federal level. And why I'm bringing this up is that we often have disagreements here about how we feel about the regulatory authority of our federal agencies. So however we feel about the USDA or the EPA or whatever agency, and just for this record, I myself, as an ecologist, liked the concept of a United States and having a federal government that watches out for people. But whatever you feel about it, I think we can all agree that we're kind of on our own now. And so that speaks to the need for more strong and proactive and representative of all Missourians, our agencies, especially in critical issues such as our clean water. So I hope you will all vote yes to move forward Senate Bill 569.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, happy birthday and thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else to testify in support? Please come forward.
Thank you, Senator Roberts, for this bill and also your service that I share with you as a fellow Air Force vet and your continuing that integrity service. As a rural American, I'm Ethan Duke of Saline County in Senator Gregory's district. I guess the testimony that you heard previous to this in support of this bill was so expert, and I thought really explained a lot of things. I thought as just testifying as a citizen, though, I could bring you a little bit more of that kind of moral clarity on the topic or just general justification of it. As a rural American, I grew up hunting and fishing. I learned early the value of clean water, not only for the recreation but for sustenance. Though my family was really low income, we ate well on fish and game, thanks to the abundance provided by a healthy ecosystem. That's a heritage that we have, and something I think I want our future generations to have that same heritage. I know somebody spoke of that earlier as well. I think about when I was a little kid, and my brother and I would wait for my dad to get home with fish, and we'd be in the kitchen, and we had a kitchen counter about like this big between the sink and the stove, and the other countertop was our washer and dryer. And I had to stand up on a chair and look down, and so here's these little boys hovering over, looking at my dad cut open these fish. And what he was teaching us about fishing. He was teaching us to fish. And as he was doing that, he was showing us what the fish were eating. We could look in their stomachs, we could figure that out, and we could understand that whole lesson. To me, it's like a Norman Rockwell painting in my mind about that kind of experience. And if we have a strong Clean Water Commission with integrity, we can preserve that. So it's not just a parable of myth, it can be an actual parable that we can live and experience. So we should embrace this awesome bipartisan legislation like this that speaks for everybody with a really great shared vision that can, I think, unite us for something that we also clearly depend on for all of our industries and for all of us as individuals. Because we can do all the other fights in this building that we can and win all these different battles, but if we don't have clean water at the end of the day, it's all going to be for nothing. So I encourage you to support this legislation for our legacy of clean water for all. We have many paths forward, and I think this is a good one to be on. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else to testify in support?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Adam Rapert here testifying on behalf of the Missouri Rural Crisis Center. I have nothing else to add to this, so just want to thank the bill sponsor for handling this bill and want to go on the record in support.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Anybody else to testify in support? Anybody to testify in opposition? Seeing none. Anybody for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Senator Roberts, do you have anything to close?
No, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I make a motion. We now have a quorum, so I make a motion that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? Second. We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? And the ayes have it. We're in executive session. We have two bills we're going to exec on today. I move that we bring Senate Bill 365 before the committee. Do I have a second? I have a second. The bill is before the committee. Any discussion on Senate Bill 365? That's Senator Brown's dissolution of the public water supply. Okay. 365.
Fitzwater's. No, Ben Brown's. No, Ben Brown's.
Ben Brown. got it right here, and what it says is, amended statutes that general obligation bonds are required to achieve the constitutional requirements of 4/7 of regular elections in April and August primaries in even number years, and in November general elections in even number years. 2/3 majority is required in all other elections. A simple majority is required for special obligation bonds. So that's the notes I have on it.
So that's why I'm moving this from 2/3?
Yeah. So basically, it says in 1900 that was a statute. Let me look through the notes some more here.
You may want to look at the ballot language that has to go before the people as well. That might be an indication as to why some of these measures haven't passed in the past when they are actually wanting to have the help of a public works, another utility come in and help them.
I think, isn't this the bill where they're wanting to make sure, like in rural areas, sometimes the water supply, some of these companies are having trouble with the water, and they have to come up with dissolution so they can have a private company that can come in and help them with it, because they just don't have the resources to take care of it. I
So
think
why
this
does
is
you
the
need
one.
2/3 vote? I don't know.
Well, maybe the voters that live in that district don't want to sell it. So we're making it easier for them to sell.
Here's what it says. Many public water systems are interested in dissolving or asking voters to approve, but have been discouraged from doing so because 2/3 vote threshold to approve is too high to accomplish. An example, in my district, we had a unincorporated municipality with a water system. We had an incorporated municipality with a water system, and they were trying to do away with it in private contract. They just didn't have the resources, and the bills were going to be too high, and that threshold is sometimes too high for them to pass it.
I don't get it, but okay.
I said that correctly, didn't I?
I mean, you are saying that correctly, the threshold, but I think if I could I borrow your notes real quick for a second?
There you go.
So the ballot language in particular on this that goes before the people, what I was told is that this is the statute requirement for the ballot language, and that says that shall whatever public water supply be dissolved. And so by statute, that's what's going before the people to say, shall Reddings Mill Public Water Supply District be dissolved. So there was some talk about that potentially being confusing, and one of the reasons why they weren't able to meet that threshold. So the 4/7 was kind of that midway point where it didn't take, still is not 2/3, but it's still 4/7. That's what, oh,
It's
yes.
probably not going to affect your district as much as some of them, like my area, that are having trouble with it.
So it's trying to dissolve the public works, and then the private water comes in, right? Okay.
And that usually happens when they let it get so bad, they just don't have the resources to maintain it at that
Yeah, but
point.
I'm still trying to figure out, I still don't get past why I can't get the 2/3 vote.
It changes to 4/7.
I know, okay.
Make it easier.
I got you, okay. We can move on, I'm sorry. I'm late.
Any other discussion on it? Okay, let me get my motion. Okay, I move that we do pass Senate Bill 365. Do I have a second? We have a second. Any further discussion? Michelle, please call the roll.
Senator Henderson.
Aye.
Bernstetter. Carter.
Aye.
Fitzwater. Gregory. May.
No.
McCreary.
No.
Mosley.
By your vote of 6-2, you do pass Senate Bill 365. We have one more one more bill, so I move that we bring Senate Bill 213 before the committee. Do I have a second? We have a second. This bill is before the committee. Any discussion?
Yeah, this is, Fitzwater's bill. So, I'm leaning to voting it yes, but I think it's restricted. So can we have some conversation?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I think I want to move it forward because they're having house discussions on this, and they've significantly watered it down. I just had some constituents in my office last week or 2 weeks ago who are going to be surrounded by solar panels. Their whole property is going to be surrounded by these things. There's no restrictions to have setbacks or decommissioning plans, things like that. So I think wanting to move it forward so we can get some negotiation on what those regulations are for these large solar farms and how do we tax them. You know, years ago, I was a part of the bill that set up a standard for windmills, and this kind of takes that standard and sets it as the start point of negotiations on what that should look like. It's very different, so there's a lot of discussion to be had in that space. But we also, these local projects, of which Callaway County has thousands of acres up for that consideration for projects, one of which is going in, it's going to be a couple thousand acres in Kingdom City. How do we go about setting a structure that keeps taxes local? And Ameren's doing another project. If they do their project, which could be thousands of acres in Callaway County, that will be sent into the pool for the whole state, and those taxes won't even stay local, which is why several years ago we did the windmill tax to make sure that the taxes that were already agreed to in the local area would stay there when Ameren purchased that windmill farm up in northwest Missouri. So it's kind of a similar thought. How do we get to a point where we're making this, we're keeping some of those dollars
So
local?
just to tell you where I'm coming from, I'm on the other side. So if I'm the person that owns this farmland, it seems like you're making it hard for me to do what I want to do with my land.
Sure.
If I don't have a generation coming behind me to farm my land, how is it that I'm owning 150 acres and it's just sitting there? And so if I wanted to make it into a solar farm that's going to bring some generational wealth
Yeah.
that I want to leave behind,
And
how do I do that, and why would it be restricted, and why do I have to get permission from everybody else in order to do this with my land? And what scientific evidence do we have that it's going to impact schools and churches and all of that?
Yeah, so that's the balance we've got to figure out as we go forward, because these folks who are going to be surrounded, and farmers should have the right to do what they want with their property, but when you surround a neighbor with a solar farm, it's going to impact the value of their farm. And so how do you create a balance where at least those solar farms are at least some distance from the boundary of a home, a church, or a school?
Yeah, but I mean, they do what they want with their farm. My farm is surrounded by animals and hay and all of that. So you get what I'm saying? So I still have, so what they're doing will definitely impact me if I'm sitting here and I can't farm anymore, but still I'm surrounded by all the stuff that they're doing on their land. So that is a balance we got to figure out. You get me? So
Yeah, and I'm very much willing to have that conversation. I'm more than happy to have it, figure out what's the path forward. The bill's moving in the House. I'm trying to get a little bit of movement to get everybody to the table and figure out what is a path forward. Because these aren't small little projects that are happening next door. These are thousands of acres. Callaway County, I think, has about 10,000 acres of proposed land to have these, and it's because Ameren's got infrastructure here, it's easy to tag into the infrastructure. So there's a lot going on in this space. I want to have the conversation I think needs to happen, and what that looks like, I know I'm going to have to work with everybody to figure out what that path looks like.
Senator, is there didn't mean to jump ahead.
Go ahead.
Is there a definition of solar farms? Do you know?
I think that this idea that we have massive facilities is pretty new. So also happy to define what that looks like for more clarity.
Yeah, just trying not to, those, okay.
That's right, 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, excuse me, I move that we do pass Senate Bill 213, Senate Bill 213. Do I have a second? We have a second. Any further discussion? Michelle, please call the roll.
Senator Henderson.
Aye.
Bernstetter. Carter.
Aye.
Fitzwater. Gregory. May. McCreary. Mosley.
By your vote, your vote is 7-1. You have due pass Senate Bill 213. So we're going, I need to go out of executive session. So I make a motion that we go out of executive session. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? And we're out of executive session. So we're going to go back in, and at this time, we're going to hear Senate Bill 537 by Senator Brown. Senator Brown, begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Justin Brown representing the 16th Senatorial District. Today I'm here to present Senate Bill 537. Senate Bill 537 establishes the Missouri Defense and Energy Independent Act. This bill authorized a qualified company to claim a tax credit not to exceed $8 million for conversion costs incurred by the company for converting the company in order to produce chemicals, metals, gases, or rare earth minerals that will be used for project designed to decrease or eliminate reliance on foreign-produced materials. This bill provides a business community with a critical tool that will facilitate positive economic change in our state. The tax credits authorized by Senate Bill 537 help those innovators lower the risk of their investment and control costs so they can successfully conclude their test and initiate production. Finally, Senate Bill 537 establishes grants for independence from Foreign Influence Fund, which will be used by the Department of Economic Development to provide grants to qualified companies in the amount not to exceed $500,000. There are experts here behind me to testify, but with that, I will try to answer any questions that you all may have.
Senator Brown, I think that would probably come into play. We have a cobalt plant as an example, so that's what you're talking about when the rare minerals, correct?
That is one, yes, that's part of it.
And we have one that's come into our area employing hundreds of people and really trying to get going at this time. It's really just outside my district into Senator Berger's district.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I have a lot of mining in my district as well on the southern part of it, and cobalt, zinc, there's a number of things, copper, that kind of would go along with this deal.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the senator? Seeing none. Anybody to testify in support? Please come forward. If you've got your form, please turn it in and begin when you're ready.
Committee for speaking with me today. Thank you, Senator Brown, for proposing SB537. I previously came in support of HB 1834 and SB 1360. And my name is Douglas Jost. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Jost Chemical Company. It's headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri. We employ over 400 people there. We manufacture various types of inorganic and organic salts for nutrition, food, pharmaceutical use, consumer products, and other things. We've been working with the API Innovation Center in St. Louis, the Critical Materials Advanced Energy Consortium headed by Missouri University of Science and Technology, and the Critical Crossroads Consortium led by UMKC to look at making various types of critical materials in St. Louis and in Missouri in different locations. We've been working on manufacturing calcium gluconate, which is on the drug shortage list, and we figured it out. Now we're looking to scale that up. This bill would help us provide some funding to help us with our endeavors. To give you some kind of idea of what we would be getting, like if we were to get it in 2024, we didn't do so hot relativistically. So we're estimating about $400,000 state tax. So if we got that, that might allow us to buy some pilot equipment or some testing, but it wouldn't build a whole new production line. A new production line would easily cost $6 million or more. Like a sterile filling line could cost over $10 million. So you can kind of see, what kind of incentive the state is giving for us to be able to enable the what we need to do. To actually get the full $6 million credit, you probably need to be like $1 billion company or something, because you need like over $100 million to, once you pay taxes to get that $6 million. So, but we're in a critical state. We need all size companies to be able to take advantage of this credit. If you look at what President Donald Trump did this past week with putting tariffs on every single country, he carved out certain materials, which included critical materials and pharmaceuticals. And the reason why is those are our Achilles heel. These other countries can use that as leverage against us to bend us to do what they want. So if you look at some of the pharmaceuticals, 80 or 90% of generic pharmaceuticals are made in India and China. And by carving these out, that also makes it difficult for us to compete because these materials can still come in a very low price, so then it's hard to build capacity to try to compete with them. And I'll give you an example. So we manufacture various citrate salts. ADM, Cargill, and Tate & Lyle got the Commerce Department to put anti-dumping duties on citric acid, over 100% tariff on Chinese and other countries like Cambodia, Thailand, Belgium even. And so their market price, for large volumes, around 95 cents a pound for citric acid. Well, coming out of China, it's 40 cents. And because of these tariffs, they started to make products that we make, which are not protected under these anti-dumping duties. So, for example, we make magnesium citrate. They can sell for $1 a kilogram. That's way below our costs. Even after all these tariffs that Trump is putting in, they can still come way below our costs. We could try to go for an anti-dumping duty like Tate & Lyle, but it's costly to do that. And then we have to share all of our costs and operations with not only our customers, but our competitors, so that's not very attractive either. So we've been looking at how we can move into other types of products that could be more lucrative, but that's just an example of how some of these manufacturers get out of certain products because they just come in and make it so difficult to want to compete. But some of these we really need to make in the United States to, for defense and other purposes. So having something like this can help with that. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. So.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else to testify in support? Please come forward.
All right, thank you, Senator.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ray McCarty, President of Associated Industries of Missouri, I want to go on record in support of this. This is going to help increase our energy independence and our defense independence by trying to allow our companies some credit for converting what they do now to produce domestically things that now are sourced abroad. We think that helps our national security, and we believe it's worth it. It's a 15% credit. It's spread out over 4 years. And so we believe it's a reasonable credit. We'd like to give it a try. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you. Next witness in support.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Michael Gibbons representing the Doe Run Company, and just very much in favor. We think this is a good incentive that would apply to a lot of the innovative things that are going on in your area, Old Lead Belt and Iron and Reynolds County, Shannon County. Missouri has, I think, 29 of the 50 rare earth minerals are found in the state of Missouri. So there is definitely, they exist. And from like Doe Run, a legacy lead mining company, chat piles, tailings impoundments, things were out of the base rock. Lead was removed, but there's still these other elements are present. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity and new development occurring within this industry that this would be helpful.
Any questions for the witness? Thank you.
And Commissioner, one thing too, I did want to mention, the fact that these would be transferable makes it attractive to a company like the Doe Run Company. If they're not transferable, then it really isn't.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. Anybody else to testify in support?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, good morning. Jared Hankinson with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce here to speak in support of Senate Bill 537. You've heard about the economic development incentive that this bill puts forward. Also creates a supply chain stability. There's a supply chain stability component of this legislation as well. If we can take this step forward to ensure that Missouri businesses, industries that are working in critical mineral space have supply chain integrity and are not relying on industries based in foreign nations for the goods that they use in their industry, that creates stability in Missouri's economy. So happy to take any questions.
Senator May.
I just got a quick question, and maybe I should have asked it of the maker. This bill is like for conversion, right? A tax credit for the company conversion.
Yes, ma'am. I believe that's the language in the bill. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the tax credit is 6 million. How much is it normally for a company to go through this conversion process?
Unfortunately, I am not familiar with the cost. I think that you did hear a previous witness that the cost to make these conversions are pretty astronomical. It is a pretty hefty investment, and I do believe that this is just a small piece of the cost that a lot of these industries would incur by making these conversions.
Okay.
Any other questions? I think just from what I know from my area, one of the big costs to them is even a lot of times getting the power to them, even not just the other costs of the mining, but a lot of these take more power than I really realized when we kind of got involved with some of this just south of us, just to try to help a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else to testify in support?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Matt Thompson here on behalf of API Innovation Center. API Innovation Center is dedicated to the reshoring and streamlining of active pharmaceutical ingredients, and they're based in St. Louis, Missouri. We believe this bill would help us and some of our partners continue to reshore and produce generic drugs here in Missouri. Those drugs are currently produced, for the most part, in China. We think that Senate Bill 537 would continue to allow us to produce and increase the national stockpile of those strategic drugs and help our partners in that. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to take them.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Thanks. Anybody else to testify in support? Seeing none. Anybody to testify in opposition? Seeing none. Informational purposes only. Seeing none. Oh, we've got one. Come forward.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. Melissa Vatterat with Missouri Coalition for the Environment. I just wanted to make sure that the committee understands what risks are involved with critical minerals as we mine them or extract them from tailings and the entire critical mineral supply chain. It is very exciting that we have these minerals in our state. I just want to put that out there. But we don't have a regulatory framework to make sure that people who work in these mines, pardon me, I misspoke. We do have a framework for workers, but we don't have a framework for people who live near or downstream, downwind from these types of operations. There is an excellent, and why does that matter? Because rare earth elements often are carcinogenic. When they are extracted, they can come with that comes releasing of acids, heavy metals, and radioactive materials into the environment. And so I wanted to make sure that you knew about House Bill 704. It has a protective framework being proposed, including setbacks, more of a plan for what to do on the land to protect the people that are around and downstream from these facilities.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Senator Brown, do you have anything in closing?
No, thank you for allowing me to present this bill.
That will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 537. We have one more. That will be Senate Bill 601. Senator Gregory, proceed when you're ready.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Senator Curtis Gregory, Senate District 21. Happy to present before you today Senate Bill 601 for the first time in front of a Senate committee, I do believe. I've had it in the House the last 2 years. Last year it made it on the consent calendar, but then got knocked off by a couple people and was on the consent calendar again this year and was also removed. So I think that shows how relatively benign it is, regardless of a few people that might have a couple of issues for it. I know you're all excited to learn about sewage today, but this is what we're dealing with on septic tanks. Currently, one of the main tests that's performed is a percolation test, where you say you take a 5-gallon
bucket-sized hole you dump water into it, see how fast the water goes into it. As we know right now, soil may not be able to handle much extra water thanks to what we have going on. So you'd say, well, this isn't acceptable for a septic tank. In all reality, the more accurate test is soil morphology, where they look at the soil properties and determine what it can and can't handle as far as soaking up what might be coming out of said septic system. It is a far superior determination of what soil can handle as far as waste going out into the septic field. When I first filed this, I'm wondering who in the world is actually going to be interested in this kind of changes of legislation. And quite to my surprise, there was more than one email I received from people in industry, specifically one of our old friends in the House, the former mayor of St. Joe, Representative Faulkner, who is also a plumber by trade. So that's a great bill. We've needed that for a long time. And he's now handling it over on the House side. So thank you for the hearing on it. I'm happy to take any questions.
Senator Gregory, I think this bill stinks.
It does, definitely. Well, we're trying to prevent stink by making sure that where these septic systems are going, that the soil is going to be able to adequately handle the waste that may be coming out of said septic systems, thus preventing future smell.
Any questions for the senator? Seeing none, thank you very much. Anybody to testify in support of this bill? Please proceed.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Sarah Schlemer here on behalf of the Missouri Center of Public Health Excellence. Our organization has many members who are the local public health agencies, and they are the ones responsible for coordinating or conducting these tests. Right now, they have to do a percolation test because that is in statute, and so it's literally a box they have to check, but it tells them nothing about the septic system that has to be put in place. And this is under the purview of DHSS. I wanted to note that this would be septic systems that are small enough to handle just 2 residential households, nothing larger than that. Anything that's larger than that is under the purview of DNR. So with that, we'd like to express our support and happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Senator May.
I'm just curious, why is it under Department of Health and Senior Services? I guess health, okay, health, I got it.
Great.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else to testify in support? Seeing none. Anybody in opposition? Seeing none. Anybody for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Senator Gregory, you're recognized. Closed.
Thank you.
Okay, with no further business, I make a motion that we adjourn the Committee on Commerce. Got a second? All those in favor say aye. We're adjourned.